It's music from Joe Martin from his brand new album Not By Chance, and actually the title track from that one. Joe on the bass and joined by Brad Meldau on piano, Marcus Gilmore on drums, and Chris Potter on saxophones. Soprano sax on that track, and then before that we had we had guitarist Rez Abbasi from his album Things to Come and Dream State, and then we had John Beasley before that from Positutely with Black Thunder. You're tuned in to 90.5 FM KSJS San Jose. I'm Brad Stone on the New Jazz program. We're going to get into a little Latin jazz now with Mark Levine and the Latin Tinge. Well, one of the things that we like to do here on the jazz programming is to play some Latin jazz, particularly with our strong Hispanic community here in San Jose. So we incorporate Latin jazz into the format along with blues and some other world-oriented musics like Brazilian music and Afro-Caribbean. We've been doing jazz here on KSJS for over 40 years, going back to the 70s, and I joined the station in 1985, and I think I'm the person who's been here the longest except for Dennis Terry, so I'm the second oldest by tenure here. Joined the station in 1985. Back then we had jazz all weekend long. It was called the Creative Source, so the whole weekend block was given over to jazz programming, and we did that up until the 90s. I guess around 1997, I think we changed. Sharon Jennings changed it to a block programmed format, and jazz is now scattered throughout the week. We have 5 jazz programs on the air right now. I'd love to see it double that. I'd love to see, with this big contingent of students in 192 this semester, I'd love to see a few of them do the jazz format when they're finished with their RTVF 94 training, and love to see 10 or 12 shows kind of boosted back up to what it once was. Right now we have the 5 programs that include Ramon Johnson, Kevin Arianti, Mike Schwartz, Marquise, and myself, and that's the 5. So it's basically us, faculty, staff, and community folks kind of holding down the fort with jazz. But again, it would be great to have some of the students do the jazz format. We play all brand new music, so this is the hip and happening stuff right now in jazz, and stuff that's more on the progressive side. We kind of feel that that's what college radio ought to be doing, is the jazz that's a little more challenging. We have KCSM in the area also, so it makes perfect sense for us to do stuff that's new and a little bit more on the edge, a little bit left to center. So that's kind of what we're all about here. We've won awards, nationwide awards for our jazz programming here on KSJS, and that's something I'm very proud of. And it reminds me that we're not just about our listening audience here, although that's very important here in the San Jose area. Having an outlet for this music for listeners in the Bay Area, but our playlist is looked at by radio stations across the entire country, and so we kind of serve as one of the stations that other programmers look to with respect to what kind of music we're programming. So that's what we're all about. We're really focused on the brand new music, young players and composers. So not so much of an emphasis on the older jazz musicians and artists. Not so much of an emphasis on the dead guys, but the live guys, the people who are doing the music right now, and composing new music. And you know, KCSM used to have this tagline of we're going to switch over to Wayne Wallace right now, who's professor of music here at San Jose State. So we're going to get into that one. It's another Latin jazz player. But KCSM used to have this tagline, keeping jazz alive. But the fact of the matter is the music is very much alive, and in fact we get more new releases now. There's more new stuff out there now than ever in history. And part of that, I'm sure, has to do with the fact that it's easier for people to make CDs, but there's so much new music happening that we can't even get to it all here on the station. So we try to pick the very best and the more progressive stuff and bring it to our audience.